Welcome back to Talk Tensors. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're looking at robust body composition analysis by generating 3D CT volumes from limited 2D slices.
Yeah, it's a long title, but don't worry, we'll break it down.
Definitely break it down for us. What's this all about?
Okay, so imagine you're a doctor and you want to know how much muscle, bone, and fat a patient has.
Right, their body composition.
Exactly. Now, CT scans are great for that, but they use radiation.
Yeah, too much radiation isn't good.
So what if we could get the same info from just a few 2D slices of a CT scan? Way less radiation.
That would be amazing. But is it even possible? I mean, can you really get the full picture from just a few slices?
That's what's so cool about this paper. They actually figured out a way to do it using AI.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
So think about this. Current methods for body composition analysis, like DEXA scans or MRIs, they have limitations.
Yeah, cost, accessibility, stuff like that.
Right. And even with CT scans, the accuracy can vary depending on where those slices are taken.
Oh, I see. So like one slice might show more muscle, another more fat, even if they're right next to each other.
Exactly. And that's a huge problem because it means you might miss crucial details if you're only looking at a few slices.
So how did the researchers solve this problem?
Well, they use this clever analogy in the paper. They compare it to a tailor making a suit.
Okay. I'm not sure I follow.
Think about it. A skilled tailor can create a perfect fitting suit from just a few measurements, right?
Right. They know where to measure and how to use those measurements to create the whole garment.
Exactly. And that's what the researchers did here. They used a few 2D CT slices combined with knowledge of their location in the body to generate a full 3D model.
So they're basically tailoring a 3D model from those 2D slices.
Exactly. It's all about using AI to fill in the gaps and create a more complete picture.
Okay, that's starting to make sense. But how does the AI actually know where those slices are in the body?
They use something called body part regression, or BPR. Basically, it's an algorithm that assigns a score to each slice, and similar scores mean the slices are close together.
So it's not giving exact coordinates, but more like a relative position.
You got it. It's like giving the AI a sense of where each slice fits within the overall body structure.
That's really clever. So the AI knows the relative position of each slice. But how does it actually generate the missing information to create a 3D model?
That's where the magic of latent diffusion models, or LDMs, comes in.
LDMs, those are pretty popular these days.
They are. They're used for all sorts of things, like generating realistic images and even music.
So how are they used in this case?
Well, the researchers trained an LDM on a massive data set of 3D CT scans. This means the LDM learned the intricate 3D structure of the abdomen, how different tissues and organs are related to each other, all that good stuff.
Okay, so it's like the LDM has a blueprint of the abdomen in its memory.
That's exactly. And then, using the BPR information, those relative positions and the few 2D slices as input, the LDM can imagine what the missing slices would look like.
So it's filling in the gaps based on its knowledge of anatomy and the information it gets from those few slices.
Precisely. And because LDMs are so good at capturing contextual information, the generated 3D models are surprisingly accurate.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit. It sounds like this could be a game changer for medical imaging.
It definitely has the potential. But before we get too carried away, let's take a step back and look at what led up to this research.
Right, let's get some historical context.
Yeah.
How did we get to this point where we can generate 3D models from just a few 2D slices?
Well, the history of body composition analysis is pretty fascinating. Well, it all started with pretty basic methods like calipers, those pinchy things they used to measure skin fold thickness.
Yeah, I remember those from gym class.
Not exactly the most accurate or high-tech, but it was a start.
Right, and over time we developed more sophisticated techniques like underwater weighing and DEXA scans.
Exactly. And each new method brought us closer to understanding body composition, but there were always limitations.
Cost, accessibility, radiation exposure. The usual suspects.
Exactly. And that's what makes this research so groundbreaking. It's not just a cool technical feat. It's about pushing those boundaries and making accurate body composition analysis more accessible.
It's like democratizing access to this kind of information.
Exactly. And that's what gets me excited about the novel notions that stem from this paper.
Novel notions, I like that. What kind of possibilities are we talking about?
Well, for one, this approach could be applied to other imaging modalities, not just CT scans.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Think about DEXA scans, which are commonly used to measure bone density. Currently, you get a 2D image, but imagine if we could generate a full 3D model of your bones using this technique.
That would be amazing. You could see so much more detail and potentially detect problems earlier.
Exactly. And it could go even further than medical imaging. What if we applied this to time series data?
Time series data, like stock prices or weather patterns.
Exactly. Imagine taking a few snapshots in time and using an LDM to extrapolate to create a plausible 3D model of how those variables might change over time.
Whoa, hold on. You're talking about predicting the future with AI.
It sounds crazy, but the principles are similar to what we've been discussing. Instead of filling in missing slices in space, we'd be filling in missing slices in time.
That's mind-blowing, but
Ugh.
wouldn't that be incredibly complex?
Oh, absolutely. It would require new ways of representing time series data and training these models, but the potential applications are huge.
Imagine being able to anticipate market crashes or predict disease outbreaks.
Exactly, and it all stems from this core concept of using limited data to generate a more complete picture.
It's like taking a small glimpse and expanding it into a whole universe of information.
Exactly. But before we get too carried away with predicting the future, let's bring it back to the research at hand.
All right, let's ground ourselves in the present. Did the researchers do any deep dives into their model?
They did. They performed what's called an ablation study, which is like taking apart a clock to understand how each gear works.
So they're basically dissecting the model to see what makes it tick.
Precisely. And one of their key findings was, unsurprisingly, that using more 2D slices as input leads to more accurate 3D models.
Makes sense. More data usually equals better results.
Right. But they also found that the BPR information, those relative position scores, is most valuable when you have very few slices to work with.
Oh, interesting. So it's like the BPR is helping the AI get started, but once it has enough data, it can figure things out on its own.
That's a great analogy. It's like training wheels for the AI.
Exactly. And that highlights a key application of this technology. Imagine you have a patient who can't tolerate a full CT scan, but you still need information about their body composition. This approach could be a game changer.
Absolutely. It's all about extracting those crucial insights from even the smallest snippets of data.
Maximizing efficiency and minimizing risk, that's what it's all about.
Exactly. And that's why this research is so important. It's not just about the technical achievement, but about the real-world impact it could have on patient care, accessibility, and potentially even our understanding of complex systems beyond the human body.
Speaking of impact, let's shift gears to the so what factor. We've talked about the technical details, the potential applications, but why should our listeners care about this research? What's the big takeaway?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway here is that AI can help us do more with less. Like we're constantly drowning in data, but often it's incomplete, there are gaps, it's messy.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not always about having mountains of data, but about making sense of what we do have.
Exactly. And this research shows that we can still get incredibly valuable insights from limited data, even in something as complex as the human body.
It's like having a few puzzle pieces and using AI to figure out the rest of the picture.
That's a great way to put it. It's about seeing the potential in the incomplete.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to our novel notions, those exciting possibilities.
Right. So think about this. What if we could monitor patients remotely using just a few snapshots from wearable sensors?
Oh, well, like instead of needing constant in-person checkups.
Exactly. We could use those snippets of data to generate a much more complete picture of their health, all thanks to AI.
That would be a game changer for personalized medicine and preventive care, catching things early on.
Absolutely. And the applications go way beyond healthcare. Think about optimizing energy consumption in buildings or predicting traffic patterns.
Wow, so many possibilities. It's like we're entering a new era of data-driven decision-making.
And AI is at the heart of it all, helping us make sense of the world in ways we never thought possible.
It's truly remarkable. And it makes me wonder, what other breakthroughs are just around the corner?
That's the beauty of this field. There's always something new to discover, always more to learn.
It's an exciting time to be alive, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And for our listeners who want to delve deeper, the link to the full paper is in the show notes. It's a fascinating read, even if you're not a machine learning expert.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And who knows, it might spark some novel notions of your own.
Always a good thing.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of Talk Tensors. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and medical imaging.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those novel notions flowing.